Source number 1, through which we attempt to justify the introduction to the Arayot laws with the words Ani Hashem Elokechem, comes from the Rambam Hilchot Isurei Bia, Perek 12. But first a slight digression to provide some background and context for this halacha. The basis for the taboos, the prohibitions against intermarriage, from a legal perspective, are based upon Devarim Perek Zayin, in which we are told Lo titchatein bam, taf nun, to become related through marriage, that the nation as a whole was prohibited from entering into a marriage arrangement with bam, them, any member of the 7 Canaanite nations. Bitcha lo titein libno, you are not permitted to allow your daughters to be given to his sons, ubito lo tikach livnecha, for your son you shall not take in marriage a Canaanite woman. While one could mount an argument that the prohibition is limited to Bam, the 7 Canaanite nations of the day, the Rambam maintains that this is a blanket prohibition against intermarriage. In the words of the Rambam, Yisrael sheba'al akum mishar ha'umot derech ishut, if within the framework of a marriage a Yisrael male was intimate with a non-Jewish female, or Yisraelit shenivala la'akum derech ishut, or if the situation was reversed, a Jewish woman had an intimate relationship with a non-Jew within the framework of marriage, harei elu lokim min haTorah. This will attract a violation of Torah law, which theoretically the individual would be subject to a punishment of lokin, malkut, lashes. Shene'emar, the actual violation is lo titchatein bam, bitcha lo titein libno, or bito lo tikach libnecha. Then the Rabban goes on to say, Echad Shiva Amamin, this prohibition is understood to refer to the 7 Canaanite nations, Ve'echad Kol Umot, Be'isur Zeh, and also intermarriage with anyone who is not Jewish. In other words, a prohibition against exogamy. In support of this broader interpretation to the Bam of Devarim 7.3, the Rambam refers us to statements made by Ezra to this effect. There is, however, one caveat to this prohibition, and that is that, as the Rambam notes, that the prohibition mentioned in Devarim 7.3 must meet the test of derech ishut. In other words, within a framework of a marriage agreement between the two parties. This distinction between derech ishut, marriage, and non-derech ishut is clearly enunciated in halacha bet, v'lo asra Torah, ella derech chatanut. The prohibitions referred to in the Torah regarding exogamy only apply to a situation within marriage. If, however, it is not derech ishut but derech znut, then we are no longer dealing with Torah violations but midivrei sofrim, rabbinic law. There is a middle ground between derech ishut and derech znut, which we today refer to as a de facto relationship or pre-de facto relationships between Jew and non-Jew. To this middle ground situation, the Rambam writes, V'chol chiyuvim elu, these relationships between Jew and non-Jew are at best midivrei sofrim, rabbinic violations. This introduction will provide the background to the halacha quoted by the Sikha with respect to the seriousness of intermarriage, the lenatek ba'arayot, for which there was a need for the Ani Hashem Elokechem, a warning of the consequences by God prior to the presentation of the Arayot laws.